Okay. Is Lori coming, or
Yeah, Lori's outside. She'll be
just
out.
me and? Tell me when you want to start.
How's everybody doing? LAN parties. You guys enjoying our nice, warm Vegas winter weather that we gave you this week? We're just as shocked as you guys are that it's here. I don't like it.
Hi, Lori.
Seriously, guys.
There's some stairs.
Okay. Do the steps.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
Good. All right. Where am I sitting? Hi, is this okay?
All right, Ari, are we good to go? Hi, everyone. Pleasure to see you all this afternoon. Thanks for sticking around. My name's Zach Perlstein. I'm a lawyer at GME Law for the past 6 months, and for 3 years before that, I was a talent agent in the gaming and esports industry. So this conference is pretty perfect for me. And so my guest panelists as well. I don't know if you want to introduce yourself, Lori. I know we had Lori.
Sure. Hi, I am Lori Locklear. I am the CEO and executive producer with Peach Mariah Productions out of Atlanta, Georgia. We produce film and television almost entirely and specifically for the gaming world. We tell people we don't make games, but we make everything else that gamers like. So we focus on a lot of that. I work with and consult with a lot of the major and independent game developers, and a lot of the companies that are trying to work on better game engagement. So that's kind of my focus, and I think this is a really interesting thing to see where gaming and esports and the future of casinos and sports betting around the world of esports, because there's a great deal of interest in that, is going to go.
And I'm Lucas with the Las Vegas Review Journal on their digital side and co-host of LAN Parties, a gaming and esports podcast for the Arch.
And so today we're going to take you through a general overview of the influencer industry and what influencers are, and why it's important for different casino businesses and gambling businesses. And so not just in terms of providing you a general overview with what influencers and what they are, but what it could look like if you actually choose to hire influencers, and maybe some considerations that you may not have taken into account when you're thinking about using influencers for your program. So to start, and I can put this to my panelists as well, is what are influencers? Why are they important for businesses to utilize?
So influencers are people with large followings. A lot of them have specific niches, whether it's food, gaming, casinos, travel, all sorts of subjects. And they're important to businesses because they have direct conversations with their audiences who trust them So when used correctly, it can be a real boon to showcasing your business to a fairly sizable audience.
Thanks. I'm going to say one thing. You said influencers are people with large audiences. What I would actually say is that that's one side. That's one group. Those are the well-known influencers. Actually, micro and macro influencers have a higher level of engagement. So hiring possibly 50 influencers that each reach 1,000 people might actually get you better engagement levels overall than hiring one influencer that has 50,000 followers, if that makes sense. Think about it. Your closest friends are more likely to take a suggestion of a product, a trip, something like that that you recommend at a much higher level than if you were to talk to a group of 100 people that you sort of know. That's the difference. So sometimes, if you're actually looking for true engagement, larger numbers of smaller influencers is better economically and engagement wise. I think the name of influencer, that definition is starting to change because of that.
Yeah, Lori, that's a great point, and that actually brings us to our next slide when we're talking about who are some of the most well-known influencers today, and that goes to the point of saying, yes, there are these, celebrity macro style influencers, but at the same time, there are also micro influencers and influencers that are smaller with really engaged communities that could really do, in some cases, a better job in driving home authentic messaging for whatever program you're looking for.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest campaigns that people think of is something like Ninja's campaign that he did around pizza. And I'm sure you're familiar, he did 24 hours of streaming and a code for one of the pizza chains, and the numbers were huge for that. Because all you had to do was watch his stream, grab that code, and you got, I think it's 50% off or something on a pizza, and then every 100th one ordered was going to be free. So your chances of getting a free one were pretty good. So for 24 hours, that was a huge budget. But it was incredibly expensive. I think the total cost of that campaign, promotion, running it, etc., cost company about $1 million for a day. But it got a good news cycle afterwards. But that's pizza. Pizza's already known. There's nobody that doesn't know pizza. It wasn't a new chain. If you're trying to introduce something new to them, get them to do something new, it's going to require more than just a one-time throwing it out there. So it depends on the kind of stuff that your business are looking to do.
Yeah, I agree with that. Actually, here in Las Vegas, there was a pizzeria that was struggling called Frankenstein's, which is a good pizzeria if you guys are looking for a place to eat. Unfortunately, they're not sponsoring me, but they were within months of closing, but they reached out to a local food TikToker, and him just showing up unannounced to kind of do a little review of the restaurant has spurred them into saving the business, essentially. So to that point, reaching out to your local influencers can make a world of difference in the right situations.
Yeah, those are some great examples in terms of engagement. And since we are at the Casino Esports Conference, of course, I think it would be important to talk about if there are specific influencers within the gambling industry that maybe some local businesses should be aware about. So I put a couple on screen. One is named Trainwrecks, who's kind of a popular slot streamer who's been making news within the online streaming community, as well as Kevin Martin, who's a poker pro, and online poker has been a very popular category to be live streamed on Twitch. And then, of course, just an Instagram personality, Dan Bilzerian, who supposedly made his money playing poker. And so, those are just some examples that show the different types of influencers within the gambling industry, whether someone's niche is streaming slots or streaming poker or is playing live poker events. So wanted to toss it over to you guys to see if you had any thoughts on specific influencers within the gambling industry that could be good to keep in mind?
You know, one of the names that comes to mind locally, her name's Norma Jelly. She does a lot of great videos on casinos. She'll stay at the casino. She'll report on what other food options are there. She does this thing called 24-hour challenges, where she cannot step off the property for an entire day. We kind of take you through what gambling options are available, what kind of entertainment options are available. I think something like that's powerful because you're giving your audience a full picture of what a property can offer that can entice them to spend more time rather than jump from casino to casino to maybe spending their entire trip or most of their trip inside your property.
That's a really great idea. And also you said something that I think is really important. The number one growing group in both travel decisions, in travel, in education, in spending on those things, and in gaming, isn't on that. It's women, and it's especially women between the ages of 22 and 30. And if you're not reaching out and engaging females around gaming, around events, around coming to casinos and getting involved with what you have going on, you're missing a huge part of the demographic that is making those decisions. They are making them whether they are doing it in a coupledom or for themselves and friends. They're making those choices. So speaking to and engaging influencers that have that audience and taking some time to actually teach those influencers why what you're offering, your gaming experiences matter and can improve their lives. It can improve their experience, improve their games. That matters to this audience, this Gen Z, younger millennial Gen Z audience, more than flash. They really want to know, if I'm going and spending my time, tell me how I'm getting the more bang for your buck, having fun, seeing lots of different things. There's a huge interest in sports book around esports and gaming. There's an interest in all of these other things, and some of the casinos are farther ahead than others, but sharing what you have going on in that world and combining it with all the things from spas to shopping to all the regular gaming that Vegas is so known for and so loved for, plus the shows, bringing female voices into that room, bringing voices of people with disabilities, those kind of things. There are tons of influencers around that. And there's a lot of stuff to do here. So when you're hiring influencers, look at not just who they're, but who their audience is and who's engaging with them.
And Lori, once again, bringing us to a perfect segue for the next topic. You mentioned hiring influencers. If you identify an influencer that you want to hire and you think would be perfect to promote your product, your brand, your company, how do you do it? What's it going to cost? What are the details?
I mean, obviously, the smaller ones, you probably can contact them directly. They're less likely to have professional management. The bigger or more popular they are from an audience metric, the more likely they are to have some sort of professional representation that you will have to work through and negotiate with. Honestly, prices vary super wildly depending on what you're looking for and who you're working with. As was mentioned before, if you want to go for like the big name, it's going to cost you a ton. But locally, you can probably find great engagement. Going quickly back to that example I gave, that was for free. They just reached out to him, said, would you come review our place? He didn't respond and just surprised them with the visit. So sometimes it can be free.
That's very cool. And yeah, knowing what the influencer, what they're trying to do, how they're engaging with their audience. Sometimes one of the biggest things that we see with especially influencers that are really focused on growing their own audience is give them something that is for them to give away. In other words, invite them to your casino, your hotel, your event, but then also give them the chance to give their audience the gift of a visit. Sometimes that's the payment that they want, because anytime they can do something that encourages their audience to engage with them more, they like it. Just think about it. It helps make them more popular. They have something that their audience likes. it increases their viewership, etc. So think about what their goals might be too, and it might be easier than throwing a lot of cash at them.
Once again, Lori, bringing us to our next topic. In terms of, having live events with influencers, you would think that that could be a popular avenue for companies to take. I know, so there's Hustler Casino out in LA hosted this poker game with popular gaming influencers, as well as a couple poker pros that brought about one of the best memes on the internet last year with Ninja trolling Phil Hellmuth, as you could see on screen. But like you said, I think a lot of live events, there's a big opportunity not just to, show the influencers kind of live in person, but inviting fans to come share the experiences with them, come participate in a meet and greet or an activity like the Tapman barbecue, where he's playing beer pong, or he's having, watching football games with his fans, and they actually become part of the experience, which is something that I think during COVID, people really weren't able to do stuff like that.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And here's one of the crazy things. This town has some pretty amazing spots, a lot of cool stuff. And there are things that I think some of you who work here might take for granted, but influencers are blown away by. And that is the behind the scenes of one of the big shows. Something that goes on. If you invited an influencer and told them that one of the things that they would get is for their YouTube or Twitch or Instagram or something, the chance to film a behind the scenes video of one of the big shows or a rehearsal or anything like that, and possibly talk to somebody who is part of that, and it would be an exclusive thing for them, they would promote that for ages leading up to it, then put it out, then promote it on their other things, because that's the stuff that they all want to feel like they are hosting Entertainment Tonight, if you will. That's what they're going for. That's what they want to show their audience. They want something special for their audience. So if you invite them to do those things, they will engage an audience, and it will actually not only endear them to your property and internet, but their audience. The more you feel like you are getting an exclusive on something, the more you take emotional ownership of it, and the more you take ownership of it, the more you want to be involved, the more you actually build loyalty to it. It's one of those psychological things in marketing. You build the loyalty because you feel like you're an insider. So let people be some insiders. It works.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. At the HyperX Arena down at the Luxor, they have a relationship with Ninja. Ninja and Mr. Beast did their charity League of Legends match out there. I had a small crowd that was able to interact with them. So obviously things like that is always great. It's a kind of a win-win. I would remind, not that this crowd probably needs this reminder, but if there are certain things that you want them to take part in, whether it's meet and greets, whether it's media hits, just make sure that that's in the contract. Otherwise, there could be a sticky situation where you think they're going to do one thing and they're like, nope, sorry, it's not in my contract, we're not, so we don't want to. So just make sure that the details are all there. You cannot be too detailed with these agreements.
That's absolutely true. Some of them now have the same Hollywood agents that your celebrities did. A lot of them don't, though, and those who don't, definitely you want to make sure that you're thinking of all those things, because Hollywood agents, they're going to think of that and talk to you about that. The ones who you are just dealing with them directly, you've got to make sure that you're on top of that. Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's a fine line when you obviously want to be fair to the other side, especially if the influencers are unrepresented. But you hit the nail on the head. CAA, William Morris, they have dedicated gaming divisions now where, some of the top performers at their agencies are people who are representing Ninja, or people are representing FaZe Clan. And so they have really strong teams behind them. And like both of you guys said, you can't be too careful or too detailed, because once you get into misunderstandings between what's in the contract, what one person thought they were going to do versus what they're contractually obligated to do, that's when big disputes happen, and it could really throw any event that influencers are supposed to take part in sideways. So fully agree with both of you guys there. And so, just both of you have a production background, obviously on TV as well as on podcasts. So what kind of goes into live events logistically? What are some things that, you have to think about? I'm sure, you can do your own speeches on these as well, but maybe just high level, like what are some things, if you're thinking about hiring an influencer and you're thinking about doing it at a live event, what are some logistical considerations that maybe you should be thinking about?
Well, I know we always remind them that we are with the Review Journal, so this is supposed to be a family-friendly audience. So kind of just reminders of if there's language restrictions or topics that you would like to avoid. Things like, here's our schedule, here's when something starts, and here's when something ends, and those key markers there. Even small things like, hey, if you're arrive between this time, go in this entrance, and you're not getting caught up in traffic or anything like that, to make the whole event smoother, and you're not rushing them, or there's no stress there right before your event there. So just making sure they understand the scope, the audience, who they are both in age-wise and size, and what the goals are, so that you're all on the same page entering it.
That's good. The other thing I would add is that if you are hiring an influencer, you are hiring that influencer for their audience. In other words, spending a great deal of marketing to your traditional audience, saying that person is coming, might not actually be the best place to do it. Actually advertising through their channels that you are having them there, or the places that they are. So if they are a Twitch streamer influencer, or a YouTube live, or they're an Instagram influencer, actually taking that ad to that space instead of traditional is probably a better way to spend that money, because that's the way that their audience is going to make sure that they know, or people who are even loosely in that audience are going to make sure that they know they're coming. That audience, they don't watch network television, to be honest. They're not knowing what's on NBC on Thursday nights, really. And so those commercials aren't hitting them. Certain billboards aren't hitting them. But if you are in the channel where that influencer is, that's how you're going to be hitting them, to let them know they're coming.
Yeah, having proper instructions is honestly something I didn't even think about when I thought of this question. I thought we were more going to be getting into, make sure you have the AV person here, make sure you have the technical, but no, even just in terms of making sure they're on schedule, making sure that they know what they have to do, when they have to do it. Those are logistical considerations that could really, completely turn sideways an event if influencers don't know what they're doing, or as Lucas mentioned, they're not using family-friendly language when there are kids around. So, things that companies definitely have to keep in mind. And so moving on from the live event sphere of using influencers and into the live streaming. So what are some of the more popular platforms for live streaming that influencers are generally producing their content on?
Well, obviously Twitch is the big one, which, by the way, TwitchCon is in Las Vegas later this year. So if you guys are not thinking about that, that is a giant collection of influencers and streamers that are going to be right here in our backyard in Vegas here in October. So you guys should be thinking about that. YouTube, TikTok is becoming more and more popular to stream. It seems like every platform has their streaming option, but you can't go wrong with Twitch.
That's true. TikTok is the fastest growing for gaming influencers and streamers, but overall TikTok has the most. What I will say when you're looking at TikTok is that not every element of TikTok is equal. There are, if you think about it, at any given time on TikTok, I think they have approximately 2.6 million concurrent views around the world at any time. However, that's split up over 50,000 channels So think of that like your cable box and all of these channels. Finding the right channels for what you want to talk about, the right influencers and the right streams there. And whether your choice is to partner with game developers for something you're doing, or one of the teams, or one of the influencers. They are all in their own way influencers in different areas. So yeah, deciding exactly the message that you want to put out and how you want their audience to engage, what you want them to get out of it. Do you want them? Is this for them to engage online with online apps, et cetera, that you're doing? Is this to build brand loyalty? Is this for them to travel and spend time here for either an event or just a weekend away? Whatever that is could change how you engage across something like Twitch.
Yeah, and so again, great points, and just on the topic of influencers and gambling. I know that there has been some, hot button issues in terms of streaming gambling content. I know I had worked with an influencer one time who had tried to put gambling content on TikTok, and it got blocked and restricted and wasn't able to get published at all. So, if you're working with a gambling brand and they want to use an influencer and potentially stream content or put it live online onto a different platform, what are maybe some considerations that they have to have there? Because Twitch has some new rules that kicked in last year. As I mentioned, TikTok wasn't super responsive to having gambling content posted on there. So what are some things that people just should be aware about and should keep in mind?
Well, when those conversations first start, of course, be aware that the influencers themselves are going to be dealing with a ton of different rules. So they may have to come to the table with some compromises, or just be willing to work with them and know that your vision might not even be possible depending on their platform. The other thing is, and every panel, I think this afternoon has said it, make sure that your brand can be portrayed by that influencer authentically. Their audience trusts them. They're gonna know right away if they're trying to force something or it seems off brand for them. So make sure that your brand matches with them, so that way it doesn't backfire both for you and possibly for them too. And it's their audience is coming to them because they know what they're like. They trust their word, So if they're welcoming you in, just make sure it's a good fit for you guys, and just make sure the goals are clearly stated. And just like you said before, be willing to get creative. Give them behind the scenes access. Let them show a part of your property that not a lot of people get to see. Give them something that your audience is going to want to engage with.
One thing that I thought was super creative, and ultimately, he's a celebrity, he's a former athlete, but the Rob Gronkowski FanDuel challenge, he's not a current player anymore, but using his celebrity status probably brought in so much more business using this creative avenue. Yes, it was on TV, but he was posting about it on social media. His fans knew about it. I'm sure that FanDuel got an influx of new customers because they saw how creative and fun this particular activation was going to be. So, even if there are restrictions when it comes to online streaming, there are other creative ways that gambling companies could utilize social media to be able to, get their message across. And then finally, I know we've been talking about it quite a bit here, but legal considerations when you're dealing with either influencers or gambling, or both influencers and gambling. What are some things you have to keep in mind, and what are some maybe legal challenges that come up? And as we've all mentioned, terms and conditions of different streaming sites and social media sites restricting content. That is definitely one roadblock that appears to pop up. But any others that the two of you could add?
I'm probably the least qualified in this subject, but I'm sure just guarding yourself against breach of contract and making sure that I don't know. As I said before, make sure all the details are there and make sure that it's spelled out what will be the repercussions if something doesn't happen, you don't fulfill their end of the obligation.
And I would say when it comes to the portrayal of anything to do with gambling, in particular, any type of betting on there, most of these influencers, the vast majority are not going to know, honestly, what your marketing teams already know about what you can and can't do in film and in television and advertising, how you can get. They're not going to know that. That's going to be very much something you're going to want to bring into that conversation about what can and can't be said, what can and can't be done for your name, for your brand, to keep that safe. That's just truthful. They're not experts in it like you are. They don't have the legal marketing backgrounds for the most part, and especially those that don't have the major agency representation that would know to even ask about that. So that's something you're going to want to make sure you know. It's like, hey, if we can't say that in a commercial, I don't want it said in a stream either. I want to make sure that this is how we do. Also knowing who the influencer you're working with, who their audience really is. If their audience is significantly ranging below 18, you want to share what would be your family message that you do with them. That's where you want to go. Making sure those kinds of things. Because unlike going to one of the major advertising agencies or going to a Hollywood celebrity whose lawyers, et cetera, are used to these things and know how to work out what can and can't be said, a lot of these influencers, they don't have that background. They don't have that representation. It will depend on you to make sure that your brand is represented the right way legally, that you don't get yourself in any hot water by them saying like, oh, when you go here, you always win. You do this. You don't want them putting you in any hot water with things that would cause you to be breaking the rules for how you're allowed to advertise.
One thing that I also experienced working with online gambling companies and influencers was that the gambling company, for example, was only able to hire influencers are based. You don't want to hire them to engage in any illegal activity. If you hire them and then they're part of a campaign and then you find out halfway through the campaign, oh, they're actually using a VPN and have been, operating from an illegal jurisdiction all this time. These are just things that important to keep in mind, just because it's an ever-changing landscape, and these are the things that we have to think about when you're dealing with influencers and then also gambling companies. So thank you very much, both you guys for being up here, and we can open it up to the floor for any questions.
Well, thank you guys very much. I appreciate it.
So I just wanted to thank Zach and Lucas and Lori. I appreciate it. If you guys want to know more, you can look them up on LinkedIn, obviously, or talk to them. And if you have any questions after, you can talk to them about that. But thank you again for coming. Appreciate it. Also, this is also